Hey guys, today I'm going to bring you the ultimate tank guide. Now, this is literally just a tank guide done a little bit differently, brought to you by a professional tank player. I hope you stay tuned and I hope you learn a lot from this. I'm going to go over the basics of what you want to be doing as a tank player, and then I'm going to go through a few game scenarios and kind of go over what I'm doing, why I was doing it, and what I was trying to achieve. I think this all together will give you a really good concept of how to play that tank role. Your three biggest jobs as a tank are initiating, peeling, and zoning. All three of these are equally as important. Do not prioritize one over the other. It's all going to come down to a matter of which is the best option to take. Let's jump into the definitions real quick, and then we'll jump into some gameplays, and I'll talk over how to really do these in real time. Okay, so first off, we have initiating. Now, initiating is essentially just the art of engaging. Engaging meaning starting the fights. It's to go in, it's to burn the enemy's cooldowns and absorb the damage for your team, so your team can then follow up and continue the fight. Now, in this is a big job of you starting with crowd control to keep them still. You're essentially trying to enable your team to be in a good advantage at the beginning of a fight, and that is what your initiating job is. Now, don't over-initiate. Over-initiating is when you just dive in and you try to 1v5 and go, where's my team? More often than not, when you do this, it's you throwing that fight. So you need to pull yourself back, you need to look at timings, and you need to look at positioning, and you really need to get yourself in a good spot to be able to do this properly. Keep in mind that in some matchups you want to be counter-initiating, which leads me to my next point, peeling. Now, peeling is kind of the opposite of engaging. Peeling is protecting, it's peeling back onto your team to help them during a fight. A big mistake I see a lot of tanks making is they keep engaging, they keep initiating. They'll jump on an enemy Cinderace and think that will win the fight, when their own Cinderace has two all-rounders diving it in the backline. It's way more beneficial for you to peel back and to jump on top of your own Cinderace and to save them in that moment, because saving your Cinderace is far more important than taking theirs out. When you're a tank, you need to rely on your carries for damage throughout a team fight, so it's really important to keep them alive and to be watching them and to be positioning well enough that you can respond and get to them if someone gets past you. If you've used your crowd control to initiate, you won't have that to peel. So keep that in mind. Using abilities means that there are windows the enemy team can attack you. It's really important as a tank player for you to manage your cooldowns effectively and not just press them because the abilities are available. Now on to the third point of the big three, and that is zoning. Now zoning is so unbelievably important, and it's something a lot of new players don't seem to do. Now, zoning involves scouting. It involves moving forward and holding down a zone, a position, and not allowing the enemy to come through. A good example of this is if you're standing in a choke point, an enemy can't walk through that choke point because they fear that you will crowd control them and stop them from getting through, and they will lose the fight because they have been zoned out. They are not able to get through to that position. Another good example of zoning is, say your team is doing a Reggie. If you stand in between that Reggie and the enemy team, you are creating a zone. You are scouting forward and giving vision to your team to see if people are going to come and try to steal it, and you're also in a position that you can stop them from doing so. If the enemy Mew is coming to Solar Beam and you're in position to be able to knock them up and stop them, or if you're in position to able to push them out of the way and your team can respond with you and take them out, then the objective is done a lot safer. Remember to zone. It is very important for you to do, but do not push too far away. Don't run through into the enemy jungle and say that you're zoning, because then you're just out of position. A good way to remember these three things is to try to think of yourself as the team's wall. They don't touch your team unless they go through you. That's what you need to make sure you're doing. You are in between the enemy team and your team at all times. Now I'm going to go over a few gameplay scenarios and kind of talk through why I do what I do here and how it achieves one of these three things. Now when I go through these clips, I'm going to break them down bit by bit and show there's always a reason for every single thing that I do. Every button press, every place that I stand always has a reason, and it's usually one of the three things we just spoke about. Now in the beginning here I'm contesting farm, but I see that my Lucario is standing on their pad trying to score 10 points. Now scoring 10 points in the face of a Ninetales is actually quite tricky, so I position myself forward to stand on the goal pad with them. For those that don't know, standing on the goal pad increases the speed that my Lucario can score those points because they have a teammate on there with them, and with that they're able to score the 10 points. Now the next thing I do is step into the Ninetales, initiating onto them. This stops them from able to hit my Lucario and lets my Lucario get that berry, and it creates a zone. I then take a few steps downwards because the last I saw on the map, the enemy Squirtle was in our own jungle trying to invade it and they weren't successful. So it was likely they were going to come up this way towards the top lane, and now I'm zoning to make sure they can't get through to my Lucario. I make sure to get myself back on the pad and rest up so my Lucario can get that next score in as well. I then peel for my Lucario, aggressively positioning on top of the enemy characters. Now what this does is it lets my Lucario get out with very low health, and it's because I'm knocking them up and absorbing their cooldowns and taking the damage so Lucario can get out freely. Even in a moment as simple as my Lucario trying to get some stacks in the lane, I still practice all three of these things. I initiated onto the Ninetales, I peeled for my Lucario, and I zoned the Squirtle and Ninetales off of my teammate. Even though it appears as not much is really going on, a good tank player should always be thinking of which one of these big three to apply to any given moment. Let's move on to another moment. This clip is going to be at the endgame fight of Rayquaza. Now what I'm doing here is zoning. I'm holding off this choke and not letting the enemy team come through. I'm also mirroring them. I'm walking up as I see them walk up and down as I see them walk down. If they split apart, it's okay. My eyes are on their tank because that is their engage, that is their initiation. So their tank has walked down to the bottom lane, I'm holding the bottom chokes. They can't come through this bottom bush and they can't come through their jungle bush. So we've got them on the retreat and they need to come in here to make a play. They go ninja steps forward and now Mime stuns them. I go to hit them with rollout and actually miss, but the second one would have hit if Blissey didn't save them there with the safeguard. Because they have no way in, they're forced to initiate onto us in their own jungle, which is so far away from the objective that they actually want to contest. Now because of this, we're able to counter initiate and push back onto them, forcing them to retreat all the way back. Because of the zoning and positioning here, they were forced to use resources they wanted to use on the objective, and instead they've used them in the in-between. And we were able to force them on the retreat and really push them back and win a fight. Alright, so the final clip we're going to go over today is going to be pushing the Regieleki. Now here you can see on the clock it has not yet hit 5 minutes, meaning the enemy team doesn't have their jump pad yet. When you're in a situation like this, the push is definitely on if you guys are this far ahead in level. Now what I'm doing is I'm walking around and I'm watching the enemies waiting for their cooldowns, and the moment I see the Cramorant use their crowd control cooldown, the Surf and the Hurricane, I know that if I jump in now, it's fairly safe. So seeing that the attackers are right on top of each other, this is the prime moment and I jump in right on top of them, knocking them up. I then make a decision to push them against a wall next to me. Now I could push them back, but what this is going to do is going to put them next to their teammates and put me in a dangerous position. But by pushing them into this wall right on the side here, they're separated from their teammates and they're sitting ducks, literally, for my teammates to have their way with them. I then walk forward into the enemy team, once again creating a zone and forcing them to use their cooldowns on me, pushing me back. What this does is allow my teammates to move forward and exert more pressure, allowing Regieleki to get in. We're then all able to get our dunks in and break the goal. This is incredible early game pressure. Here ideally I would like to back away and farm, but the Cinderace had other ideas and dove in at the enemy team. Now my Cinderace is level 10 and the enemy attackers are only level 6 and level 8, meaning if they get a knockout on my Cinderace, they shoot up in experience, making this push a lot less worth it. So I have no choice but to push up and help them here. I use Heavy Slam in tandem with the eject button in midair to make it go further. I then land on their attackers and we're able to get one of the knockouts. I then go into block and push the other one toward my team, separating them from their healer, making sure we get the pick safely while we're on the retreat. Doing this, we're able to get that little bit more that the Cinderace was pushing for, but also get out safely and not give anything away. It's really important as the tank to know that you need to be looking after your team and taking care of them. If I walk away there, my Cinderace likely falls. It's very important to be watching them and to be peeling when necessary. There are so many different scenarios that you could be in as a tank and so many different decisions to make. It's one of the more difficult roles in the game despite what most may think. There is no way of me putting them all in a video without this video taking months. But if this video gets enough likes and comments and views, I'll definitely make a part 2 if that's what you guys want to see. So as always guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Hope all you tank players out there found this video really helpful, and if you like more information on how to play tank properly, check out my most recent coaching VOD over here.